do, and after sharing with you all those announcements, I would like to introduce Kevin Collins, the Director of Training and Outreach at Healthcare Equity Solutions. So I'll share with you, Kevin.
Thank you so much, Katya. Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and that you had a good day. Thank you all so much for taking the time out to join us and join me for this workshop. As Katya mentioned, my name is Kevin Collins. I use he, him pronouns, and I serve as the Director of Training and Outreach here at Health Equity Solutions. This is my second month, so I'm still a newbie, but I'm so grateful for this opportunity to join you all tonight. It's going to be more of an active workshop and less of a presentation of me talking at you. It's an ambitious timeline that we have, so if I zoom past or zoom through some things, this is just a reminder that this is recorded. And I think the slides will be sent out to you and this recording will be made available to you. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, can everyone see the presentation? I hope so, because I can't see you all anymore at this point, but I trust that you all can see the presentation.
Kevin, for some reason, we're unable to see the presentation.
Let's see here. What about now? Oh, it would help if I shared my screen. That's typically helpful. How about now?
Yep, we can see it now.
Yay. All right, there we go. So this is the Storytelling for Public Health Advocacy workshop. Again, you all know my name, Kevin Michael Collins. And quick shout out to Dawn for curating this workshop series in such a way that storytelling comes right after advocacy and before the mock trial, because storytelling is a huge piece of advocacy and a very important one. So here at HES, our vision is for every Connecticut resident to obtain optimal health and healthcare regardless of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. And our mission is to promote policies and programs and practices that result in the equitable health care access, delivery, and outcomes for all people in Connecticut. And we do that. Our approach to doing that is through education, awareness, policy and advocacy, partnerships, coalitions like the one here, the folks gathered here, and then planning as well. And of course, we aim to see an increase in health equity, making sure that all populations and all folks, again, have access to optimal, not just okay, but optimal health and healthcare, regardless of their race or ethnicity. And we want to see a decrease in eradication of healthcare and health disparities and health inequity. Tonight, we want to create a safe and productive space. So please make sure that your cell phones are on silent. Make sure you ask questions. There's no question too big or too small. Feel free to utilize the chat. Make sure, yeah, everyone has a voice, so let's all hear from each other. Again, like I said, this is going to be more active than the previous ones. And then any other guidelines? We all set with those three? All right. So hopefully by the time you all leave our workshop today, we will have discussed the basics. We're going to do a brief overview of advocacy. Again, that was talked about last time, but if you missed it, we're going to do some quick highlights from that last workshop. We're going to review the key components of persuasive story in preparation for giving a testimony or sharing your story with others. And then we're going to practice drafting some sections of your story or of your testimony that you can use to prepare for the mock public hearing, and then that you can use when you're actually sharing with officials and groups and organizations to push and advocate for change. So I'm going to breeze through this, but advocacy is the act of making one's voice heard individually or collectively, as in a coalition, on issues that are important to you in order to create and affect change. You got to remember where you are pushing for this change. It can happen at any level, state level, national level. And these are some of the folks who you would advocate to. Again, local being your city or town council, your city government, municipalities, your state legislature, governor, and then federal level, national level advocacy happens through Congress, national organizations, and even the president. Gonna click through this. And remember that I said storytelling is an important piece. It's a way to advocate for yourself or for your community. It takes on many forms: writing letters, testifying, sharing your story, verbally or written, drafting a petition. And it's important. Storytelling, I keep saying it, but storytelling is a very important piece. If you don't march or do public rallies or protests, there are other ways to advocate and lend your voice to make change, and storytelling is one of those avenues. So what's your story? So our first activity, Dawn is going to put you all into breakout rooms, but I'm going to explain what the activity is first. You're going to be in pairs. Hopefully the largest breakout room will be 3 folks. And you're going to ask each other, who are you? But you're going to be asked this 5 times, right? And the goal is you share more and more about yourself each time you're asked, who are you? So for example, imagine someone asking me, who am I? So I would say, my name is Kevin Michael Collins. They would ask again, who are you? And I would say, I am a queer Black man. They would say, who are you? And I would say, I'm a son, an uncle, a brother, a friend. And then they would say, who are you? And I would say, I'm a first generation college graduate from a low socioeconomic status. And they would say, who are you? And I would say, I am now the holder of a master's and a bachelor's degree, so on and so forth, until you get to that 5th question of who are you, sharing more and more about yourself. Are there any questions about that?
I have a question or a comment, Kevin.
Yes.
For those that speak, that are Spanish speaking, they can stay in the main room and everyone else will be assigned to a breakout room.
Perfect. So this should last no more than 3 minutes. So take a few minutes in your breakout rooms, or if you're in the main room, and remember to ask your partner or your mates 5 times, and you should be asked 5 times as well. And the point is to get you in the mode of thinking about who you are, so you can start to think about sharing and creating your story. So take a few minutes. So how about at 6:21, we all come back to this main space.
Hola. Hola, ¿me escuchan? ¿Alguien que hable español me escucha? ¿El intérprete o alguien que me pueda ayudar? Parece que no. Hola. Intérprete, hola. Hola, vemos personas que hablamos español y estoy teniendo problemas para poder participar. El facilitador del taller, por favor, ¿puede ayudarme con intérprete? Somebody help me about the translation in general group. Excuse me.
Wait, sorry, I just joined back then. What was the question?
Who is the has something problem with the participate or interaction in this activity? Because my English is no good, so when somebody send me for the small group, the small group is in English, so I come back to the general group.
Sí, las personas con interpretación en español se tenían que quedar en el main group.
So, pero vamos a interaccionar, vamos a participar o no? Solamente esperamos que los demás participen o qué?
Es que ya se había acabado el tiempo, señora. Por eso volvimos al main group. La actividad ya se acabó.
¿Cómo es posible si la actividad acaba de comenzar?
Dijimos 3 minutos.
O sea, que no fue equitativo el participar o interactuar en esta actividad porque solamente le dieron prioridad a los que hablan inglés, ¿correcto? Los que hablamos español no interactuamos, no participamos en la actividad, ¿correcto?
Yo no estaba en el grupo grande, eso no le puedo decir si habían personas en el grupo de español.
¿Me podrías ayudar, por favor, a preguntar eso cuando vuelvan todos al grupo general?
Sí, yo le puedo
Gracias,
preguntar.
muy amable.
Hay otras personas en este grupo que de 12 personas que están de español, que están tratando de hablar. Okay.
You're in the main room, correct?
Yeah, I am the main room. I'm just asking if there's other participants in Spanish, because there is one Spanish participator that wants to do it in Spanish, but I'm asking for other participants. So
who is the facilitator? Mr. Kevin Collin?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Maria Ramos. Try to explain to the interpreter to one issue about I'm not participate to the activity in 3 minutes because nobody speaks in Spanish or nobody put in me in Spanish group. So I'm asking to the interpreter explain my situation. You know, it's not fair, I think.
Okay, we're sorry about that. Yeah, I think the main room was the room for...
Yeah. Es que señora, la cosa es que usted es la única persona en español que está participando, es la cosa. Que yo estoy preguntando para otras personas que están hablando en español, pero parece que usted es la única.
No, perdón, yo también estaba tratando y no pude hacerlo.
This is the big issue when the person similar to me try to speak 3 minutes in the assembly or the representative. Nobody you know,
Sí.
put in the accommodation for translation, you know. Sorry for my English, but I'm trying. This workshop for me is very important because I'm very active in my city about the legislation, or talk to my representative or city council. So for me, this workshop in specific is so important, you know.
No,
So it's not fair I'm not participating in the activity. You know, it's my comment.
Yeah, totally understand. Thank you for your feedback. We really want to make sure that
you.
everyone is able to do that. And yes, the slides we will do a follow-up with everyone in regards to the session, the recording, and the slides. But yeah, I think everyone's back, Kevin, so I'll just turn it back to you.
Awesome, thank you. And sorry for if that was a little wonky, and if folks weren't in the appropriate groups and couldn't really fully participate. Again, we apologize about that. And the next time we send you to breakout rooms, we'll make sure that everyone is in the appropriate breakout room. So moving, was there a question?
Well, Kevin, I just want to give a quick, just like side note, right? For the Spanish participants. Las personas que están, que solo pueden, que quieren hacer todos los breakout rooms en español, por favor, quédense en la main room para que podamos trabajar con ustedes para hacer las breakout rooms en el main room. So, si usted ve que hay un cuadrito que dice entre al breakout room, no lo oprima, haga X afuera para que se quede en el main room. Y de aquí en adelante, en la parte de del evento, yo voy a estar hablando con ustedes en el main room para que no haya ninguna otra problema. So, yeah.
Thank you for explaining this detailed interpreter. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you for that. So why is a good story important? Humans, we're not moved to action by data dumps. Sometimes it's easy to separate the human from the numbers that we see in data dumps. And a good story seems like a gift, but really it's a great way to deliver your agenda. And again, numbers and facts alone can really be overwhelming and can turn a person off. But tangible nuggets of info and good information about who and why you're advocating for this specific agenda aids in moving people to act. So some proof. A few legislative staffers and aides were asked what moved them to action and what got the attention of their bosses, and the #1 response was personal stories. So you can see the quotes, but my boss loves personal anecdotes. I can research the facts, but finding personal stories from the district isn't always accessible via data or the internet or a fact sheet, but hearing personal stories really connects. And then the last quote is, the reason my boss became interested in this issue was because a passionate constituent shared a compelling story. So these are a few snapshots of why it's extremely important, why stories are so important and can move folks to act. So what are the elements of a good story? Obviously, there's a beginning, middle, and an end. You want to make sure to grab attention, and you want to share relevant details, the why, and then you want to wrap it up with how can change, how can systems or policies affect change to remedy whatever the issue is in the story. There's a protagonist, so the person or the thing or the issue that the listener should care about, and the protagonist is the chief character of the story. The antagonist, If relevant, is the person, the structure, the system, the policy, the barrier that the storyteller wants the listener to change or defeat. And what makes a good story? Again, the beginning, you want it to be captivating, gripping, interesting, and you want the middle to be as interesting and enticing as the beginning, but you also want to use that time to share the passionate details about what the issue is or what you're advocating. And then the end, you should tie it up with a nice bow. It should be complete, solid, and use that time to call to action, right? And explain the importance and the relevance of why you're sharing the story to begin with. So yeah, there are a multitude of ways to share and tell your story by being dramatic or funny, sad, angry. You can use all of these methods, but whatever is natural and whatever makes sense for you to share your story. And make sure you introduce the protagonist, right? Who's the main character in the story? Is it you? Is it a community that you're representing? Is it an issue that you want solved? Make sure you're clearly stating the purpose and the main point of the story. So the middle part of the story has some different components to it, right? So you want to, we like to compare it to a sandwich, right? The two pieces of bread being the beginning and the end, and the middle being all of the good ingredients that make a sandwich tasty, right? So the onions, the setting, where does the story take place? The pickles, the characters, who's in this story, what community is in this story that you're advocating for? What's the problem? What's the main issue? The tomato, the events, what's important, what's happening, what happened to make you want to share this story? What barrier did you run into? What system did you run into that was detrimental or that created a barrier to you? And then it's the solution. In what ways do you think this problem should be solved? And what's the most important or the most exciting part? What's the point? What do you want to share? What do you want to drive home the most? So these are some of the ingredients, right, that make up a good story. The ending of your story, it should be, again, solid, complete, a call to action, reel the listener in and drive your point home. Like beginnings, you want your ending to connect the dots. So what happened? Why am I telling you this story? Why does it matter? And what can you do? What can the listener do to help the main character or the main issue be resolved? I think I saw a hand up. Was there a question? I think it may have been Veronica.
I'm sorry, that was for the other, from the beginning. I forgot to put it down.
Okay. So that's the beginning, the middle, and the end of your story. We always want to make sure that we're being ethical in our storytelling. So if you are using someone else's story to advocate, you want to make sure that you get permission before sharing the stories of others. You want to think about if the protagonist is in a vulnerable position, and does retelling their story endanger them in any way? If that's even a thought that you have that could be a possibility, change the personal details when necessary as to not give out any identifying information. Does the narrative of your story cause any indirect harm? Are you humanizing your protagonist at the expense of someone else? using language as like the deserving immigrant narrative, right? Are you making sure that you're telling, you're being truthful and being diligent and careful with the information that you're sharing, right? Making sure you're not denigrating or being a savior in any way to the community that you're serving through this storytelling. And that leads me to my next point. If you're speaking on behalf of a community, make sure you have permission from that community to represent them, and make sure you're accurately portraying their interests. And think about who's not in the room, who's not in that conversation that you're having when you're sharing these stories. And think about why aren't they there? And if they aren't there, how are you being, what's the word? Are you being careful with their stories? They entrusted you with their stories, making sure that you're being careful with those stories. So it's your turn. I wanted to leave as much time as possible for folks to get practice. Dawn came up with a really neat storytelling tool to kind of help you get your mind flowing and practice some of the concepts we talked about. You'll be in breakout rooms, and as Kapia mentioned, we'll give you a reminder of how to work these breakout rooms. But Dawn, were you going to share a screenshot? If not, I can pull up what this sheet will look like.
Yes, either way. And I also put something in the chat.
In the chat. Let me see. Quickly stop my share. Okay, can everyone see that? Great. So we want you to use this template to really start to craft and brainstorm the pieces of the story that I talked about. So the beginning, making sure it's captivating and interesting. What would you want to talk about? What issue? How would you want to start off your story or your testimony? And then in the middle, you'll see what are the points you really want to highlight and drive home about the story, about the issue you're advocating for, and about the community you may be representing. And then at the end, practicing and thinking through what would wrap this story up. How would I drive home the purpose of this story, the purpose of this testimony, why it matters, and how what the listener can do to remedy or fix the issue or the situation, and then tying it up, concluding it. This is what we need. This is how this will remedy our situation, our issue. This is how this barrier will be. This is what the impact of this barrier being removed will be. So I think I'm going to stop my share. And then Dawn, do we have the room set up? You're going to be in
Yes.
breakout groups to share, to ideate, to brainstorm with folks. And we'll give you about, I think we have time for about 10 minutes.
Okay, that sounds good. Why doesn't everyone who is Spanish speaking go in, including our interpreter, go into breakout room number 1, and everyone else can choose their room?
Oh, okay. So I have to, because I just put it on the chat that folks can stay in the main room. My bad.
That's fine as well.
Okay.
Whatever works.
So las personas que van a estar en español, por favor, quédense en la sala principal.
Sí, estoy aquí.
Ok, muy bien. Entonces, para empezar, porque no tuvimos tiempo de hacer el ejercicio de antes, quiero que todos, si es posible, que vayan al documento parece, mejor lo voy
Sí.
a abrirlo para que todos puedan ver y tengamos lo mismo. Ténganme un tiempo para que podamos hacer la página. Aquí está. Y for folks, please, the ones that are in English, I was trying to do the one in Spanish. I have it. I can share it. For folks that are doing it in English, please go. You can go click into the breakout room section and please assign yourselves to a room, please. Thank you. Okay.
Katia, do you have screen share power?
Yeah, I do. I was just I was doing a lot of things at once.
Sure.
Okay. Muy bien, entonces, como estamos hablando sobre el formato de las narraciones y las cartas, principio, medio y final. Como estaba diciendo Kevin en la presentación, tenemos que, si tienen un papel y un lápiz, por favor agárrenlo para que podamos hacer el principio de su historia, el medio y el final. Pero yo puedo empezar con un ejemplo y de ahí si ustedes se sienten confortables, pueden compartir con nosotras cómo ustedes empezarían el principio de su carta. Yo empezaría mi punto como con quién soy yo. Yo soy Katia, yo soy una persona inmigrante de Perú, que yo antes era indocumentada y mi familia todavía es indocumentada, yo soy de una familia mixta. Y estoy aquí porque quiero, por ejemplo, para mí es importante la salud médica de mi familia. Estoy aquí para abogar por la salud de mi familia, para que podamos tener acceso a ella. Ese es un punto principal, ¿no? Que dice quiénes somos, por qué estamos aquí y sí, Frank.
Sí, perdona, que sí, me pareció muy interesante lo que dijo al principio. Es importante, primero al inicio de la historia, creo que cuando cautivas al prospecto o al público a que va dirigido tu historia, debe iniciar con quién eres, principalmente con quién eres hoy, para que durante tu historia puedas desarrollar la imagen que tú estás tratando de venderle a ellos. Entonces, otra cosa que quería preguntar, ¿es importante el tiempo en la historia? Las historias pueden ser de 60 segundos. Pienso que más de ese tiempo, ya la historia como que empieza
Aburres.
viene a minimizar todo lo que va diciendo y le das tiempo al prospecto o a las personas que va a dirigir a tu historia a que empiecen a pensar otras cosas que tú no estás tratando de enseñarles o mostrarles. Gracias.
No, muchas gracias, Frank. Voy a responder algunas preguntas aquí. Bianca, estamos haciendo en el principal, estamos atendiendo todas las personas que hablan español para hacer esta actividad juntas. And again, for the folks that are doing this in English, please join a breakout room so you're able to do this activity with other folks in English, please. Y muy buenos puntos, Frank. Yo creo que depende en el sitio o con quién vas a dar la información. Si es para, como ejemplo, de 2 semanas aquí vamos a hacer un ejercicio de cómo es un testimonio a frente de representantes. Ahí tenemos 3 minutos. En 3 minutos tenemos que decir quiénes somos, por qué estamos aquí y por qué es importante, que nosotros estamos abogando sobre un proyecto de ley. Ahí tenemos un poquito más tiempo, pero de todo. Sí, María.
Disculpa que interrumpa, ¿podrías contestarme 2 preguntas? Una,
Sí, María.
¿me puedes compartir el documento en el chat en español? Y segundo, ¿cuánto tiempo tenemos para esta actividad? ¿Y cuántas personas van a participar practicando? Porque vemos muchos en español hoy.
Sí. Yo creo, el primero sí puedo mandarle una copia de eso para que usted le pueda sacar copia a este documento. La segunda, tenemos, déjame preguntarle a Kevin. Kevin, how long do we have for this training, for this activity? I don't see him.
He gave us
I'm
10
here.
minutes, right?
20 minutes. Oh, 20 minutes? Okay.
No, 10.
Oh, 10 minutes. Okay.
So we should have about 5 to 7 more minutes.
5 to 7 more minutes. Tenemos 5 o 7
Yeah.
más minutos. Vamos a tener 3, 4 personas hacer un punto de principio, un punto medio y un punto final. El resto de las personas, por favor, si tenemos un grupo bien grande en español, si lo pueden escribir en el chat para que ustedes puedan ver cómo ustedes están haciendo su historia y nosotros podemos, ustedes pueden entender el principio de sus historias y podemos hablar con ustedes sobre cómo queremos cambiarlo, qué queremos asaltar en la historia.
Perdona que te interrumpa,
Sí, María.
¿puedo indicar si puedo dar mis datos para que alguien me dé feedback si estoy contando mi historia correctamente?
Oh, sí, yo estoy aquí para eso, Sonia está aquí para eso, nosotros en Connecticut Students for a Dream, Make the Road, los organizadores, si las personas están interesadas en hacerles historias, nosotros podemos darle recomendaciones y feedback, sí, no hay problema.
Pero podemos utilizar este poco tiempo que nos queda para por lo menos yo contar básicamente la historia y practicar, porque no estamos practicando.
Sí. María, si usted tiene ya su historia, puede darnos un ejemplo y practicar.
Ok, comienzo. Mi nombre es María Ramos, soy puertorriqueña y madre de 2 hijos. Llegué a este país hace 13 años y defiendo mucho mi idioma maternal. Estoy hoy aquí tratando de mejorar el sistema de traducción para este taller porque es importante que nosotros los hispanoparlantes que hablamos español podamos recibir la información de este taller, de contar nuestras historias en la medida por igualdad posible para poder entender todos los detalles. Es importante que nosotros podamos contar nuestra historia y recibir la información equitativamente, igual que los grupos en inglés o cualquier otro idioma. Yo sugiero que para la próxima lean la evaluación de los feedback que vamos a dar luego. Es importante que todo este material, si el formato de los documentos lo dan en español, en inglés, también lo den en español y se hagan prácticas antes de estos talleres para que las personas que hablamos español podamos participar por igualdad. Esa es parte de mi sugerencia. Ya terminé.
Muchas gracias, María.
Feedback en menos de un minuto, así que se puede.
Sí se puede. Hay otra persona que quiere practicar su historia.
Excuse me,
Sí, yo
Tatiana?
puedo.
Oh, yes, what's up, Don?
I'm a little bit, I'm wondering about the folks not being able to take advantage of the interpreter that we have in the other channel.
In the other channel?
Right, Jackie, our interpreter.
I'm confused. Jackie's in another room?
Sí, estamos usándola.
Because she's on the, she's in the Spanish room, the interpretation Spanish room.
Oh, okay. I let them be in this first room. That was on me. And the exercise is almost over, so maybe this is feedback that we might use for next time.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, ya. Teresa, ¿usted quiere practicar?
Me hubiese gustado que me dieran feedback sobre mi historia, pero si ya se está terminando la actividad, sería otro punto que hay que anotar para la evaluación.
Sí.
¿Puedo hablar? Mi nombre es Verónica.
Oh, Verónica, sigue.
Ok, quería contar un poquito de mi historia. María, hiciste un excelente trabajo. Me gusta cómo siempre puedes hacer tu historia tan cortita. Yo quisiera hacer lo mismo, pero siempre empiezo largo, pero ahí voy. Bueno, mi nombre es Verónica Ubaldo, soy mexicana. Llegué a este país hace 30 años, un poquito más de 30 años. Soy madre de 4 hijos y 3 nietas. Y estoy aquí, obviamente, luchando por la igualdad en mi comunidad y tratando de empoderar. Gracias a Dios aprendí inglés y español, entonces eso para mí ha sido muy importante porque puedo ayudarle a las personas, ¿me entiendes? Que no hablan inglés. Y aunque yo como María adoro mi lengua materna y siempre la defiendo, siempre hablo español cuando puedo, pero es importante, ¿no? Entre más aprendes, creo que tienes un poquito más de poder y de comunicarte con nuestros representantes. Gracias.
Bien. Buen trabajo.
Sí, para que eso fue un buen trabajo. Lo que nosotros, con la historia que usted comenta, como María también dijo su principio, introducción, un medio importante como cuál es el problema que estamos viendo y al final dio soluciones y habló sobre las diferentes maneras. Ustedes dos hicieron muy bueno. Creo que el ejercicio ya se va a acabar en 30 segundos. ¿Hay alguien más que quiera comentar algo o algo por el estilo? Nosotros vamos a agarrar toda la información que nos están dando para que nosotros podamos seguir haciendo, mejorar estos talleres para ustedes.
Me gustaría tener el enlace del documento en español porque es una información valiosa para ir refrescando mi historia, porque las historias cambian año por año.
Sí, no, tiene toda la razón, María. Yo porque ahorita lo estoy poniendo en la pantalla más grande, es que no le puedo todavía dar esto, pero cuando ya empiece Kevin otra vez con la presentación, le voy a mandar eso en el chat para que todos lo tengan.
Perdón, Katia, está en el chat ya.
La presentación está en el chat, yo la estoy
viendo.
Ah, ¿ya la vio? Ok.
Sí, está en el chat.
A las 6:38 lo colocaron. Si mira el historial del chat, a las 6:38 está la presentación en español.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to give it back to Kevin. El ejercicio ya terminó. Le voy a pasar ahora el mic a Kevin.
All right. Hopefully that was some good practice. This certainly, hopefully, isn't the last time that you all practice and go over this sheet. We're going to make sure that both sheets in English and in Spanish are sent out to you so that you can continue to practice and craft your story. But for now, we're going to move ahead. Let's see. So in summary, because I want to leave time for some questions, good personal stories are extremely important to moving your agenda forward. You saw from the quotes from the legislators that we polled that sometimes the things that spark or draw legislators in is the personal stories. Those are the ones that that spark interest, that share details that you can't get from a fact sheet or you can't get from quantitative or just numbers. You want those narratives because they paint a fuller picture than what numbers can do. So remember to practice your story, use the tool sheet that we developed and sent to you, develop your story, and remember that it's yours. Don't forget that you still want to, and this is for when you're sharing your testimony at a public hearing or to a legislative body, to thank the committee. Make sure you share your name, where you live, and your agenda, what you're advocating for, what you support, as well as what you oppose, and aim to leave more than just your testimony or your story. Leave an imprint, leave a memory, so that they can't forget who you are and the communities that you represent and that you're advocating alongside. So here are some next steps. Get familiar with the Connecticut General Assembly. Here's the website. And then know who your state reps are, know who your council men and council people are. Get to know your state and your local government. Also, we like to include these plugs. Make sure you're registered to vote. Do request meetings with your legislators. That's what they're paid for, to hear directly from you, from the people. Introduce yourself every time, before and even when you're about to tell your story. Present them with some facts about the community, about you. Know your opposition's argument, and explain why you care about this specific issue. Ask if they have any questions. Be honest, be authentic with your stories. If you're sharing someone else's story, make sure you're being authentic and truthful and equitable and honest with their stories. Always say thank you and write a follow-up note or send a follow-up email or send a follow-up voice message just saying thank you for their time. And join or establish a coalition. No matter what, speak up, use your voice in whatever ways you feel comfortable and necessary. And I think that might be it. Any questions? I'm gonna stop my share. Go ahead, Bianca.
Yes, I want to ask if Fuller reshare the presentation in Spanish in the chat.
Yep, we'll make sure to do that. Did you mean the document or the?
I have the presentation that I shared and I'll share it again.
Thank you, Dawn. Maria, is that a hand?
Sí, quiero hacer una pregunta. So, intérprete, ¿me podrías ayudar, por favor?
Sí, yo soy co-host, pero la intérprete es Jackie. Sí.
So, nuevamente, mi nombre es María y represento el comité de, soy de Make the Road Connecticut. So, mi pregunta es, siempre preparamos nuestras agendas con las historias que impactan basado en la campaña que estamos trabajando, ¿verdad? La campaña colectiva que estamos trabajando en nuestro comité.
We create and work on our stories that are focused on the campaigns that we work as a committee. Go on, María.
Pero eventualmente si estamos reunidos con un representante o un legislador o alguien en la política que puede servirnos como colaborador, la agenda se lleva mucho tiempo en contar toda esa historia, o sea, sobrecargamos la agenda de esas historias y al final no le damos la oportunidad a nuestros invitados para que nos contesten preguntas o cómo se pueden hacer compromisos para estas situaciones.
So, Kevin, really quickly. So when we have those meetings with legislators or with leaders of our community, we create the agenda. So in a way that we share a lot of our stories and a lot of the things. How can we make a compromise so that we can answer questions and actually get into the either decision making or the conversation in regards to how we can create not create solve the issue. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Maria, for that question. I think I got the gist of it around if your story should be relevant to that specific campaign agenda that you're doing, and I think that's fine if you want it to be relevant, and I think that's a good way to make sure that the legislators don't lose the stories that you're sharing, right? Tying it to and connecting it to a specific campaign that you have for that legislative session. I think that's a great idea. I also think a way, because I heard time come up a couple of times in the activity, and then now in the presentation there was a bullet point that said creating a fact sheet. And that sheet doesn't have to be long, but it can fill in the gaps of what you want to expound on, but you can't because you don't have time. When you're talking to a group in a public hearing, you may only have 3 to 5 minutes, and you have to hit the bullet points, the highlights. If you create a fact sheet with an expansive story, I think that's a good way. That's a good compromise to both verbally share the highlights of your story, but also create a document, a sheet that you can give legislators or their aides that create a fuller picture. Other questions? Veronica?
Hi.
Hi.
So I believe I agree with Maria. What she was trying to say is how can we as a group, right? We can create an agenda where we have the ability to create a very impactful story, at the same time give a representative the space to be able to speak up and get some either accountability, compromise with our group. And then, kind of like we usually will not record, but we keep, all the whatever he say, we keep a record of it. And so we can use that later on to follow up, like you say this and stuff like that. So I think what Maria was saying is the agenda, how can we create an agenda that has, maybe we need a feedback from you, and story that is very impactful, that it doesn't take that much space in our agenda, so he's able to compromise with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a matter of finding a happy medium, right? Meeting in the middle of where you can share the really important, impactful pieces of the story that you want to communicate with that lawmaker or with that legislator. And then using opportunities to follow up either through that fact sheet, send a follow-up letter, and scheduling follow-up meetings to really hold those folks accountable to the story that you told and to what you're advocating for. Continued staying in constant communication, I think, is an important way to hold folks accountable to whatever change you're looking for.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Cuando estás contando tu historia, tu body language impacta el movimiento. Nosotros los latinos nos movemos mucho con las manos. Es importante el body language también cuando hablamos y damos nuestra narrativa.
Kevin, just really quick interpretation. Is it important when we are speaking and sharing our stories, our body language as Latinos do? We do use our hands and our emotions to convey emotions. Is that very important to do?
I think it's important to remain authentic to who you are, right? To the communities you're serving, to who you are as a person. I believe in authentic representation. So sharing your story in the way that feels comfortable to you in your body is important. I don't believe in muting parts of ourselves to share our story to a different audience. I don't believe that's I don't believe that you have to do that. I think authenticity is important, and when you're passionate about an issue, I think it's important to tap into that and to convey and use that to shape your story and captivate the audience that you're sharing your story with.
Si estamos en una audiencia pública, sorry for too many questions, ¿cuántos minutos podemos contar nuestra historia sin pasarnos de aburridos?
Eso yo puedo contestar. Son 3. 3 minutos para todos. Interpretación, si te dejan hacer interpretación, es 3, pero a veces te pueden dar un poco más extra. El año pasado nosotros, gracias a Dios, pudimos tener 6 minutos para personas que hablaban español y pudimos interpretar. El intérprete tenía otros 3 minutos para interpretar esa historia. Just really quickly, so Kevin is up to date. How long does it take for a public hearing? How long does it take for a person that's testifying to do in the public hearing? I told them 3. And Frank, you have your hand up.
Sí, gracias, Kevin. Bastante rápido. Agradezco el tiempo que ustedes han tenido para compartir con nosotros este seminario y este curso. Al igual que mis compañeras, quisiera ir más allá de lo que las historias, del tiempo que impactan las historias y cómo colectar esos datos de cómo impactaron las historias cuando se contaron. Pero hoy estamos aquí para aprender, para saber cómo desarrollar historias, cómo hacer que impacten las historias. Entonces, nos estamos queriendo correr ahora en vez de empezar a caminar. Yo estaría muy orgulloso y muy atento de querer aprender de Kevin, porque yo he visto los datos que ha presentado, que han sido datos que le pueden servir a nosotros para poder escribir nuestras propias historias, a la vez ayudar a otra parte de la comunidad a poder desarrollar sus historias también. Para resumir, yo quisiera mejor seguir escuchando, Kevin, paso por paso, cómo desarrollar nuestras historias y a la vez nosotros agregar nuestros puntos que nosotros pensamos que también pueden ser importantes en cada historia. Gracias.
Gracias, Frank, por esos puntos que has dicho. So really quickly to interpret what he said, it wasn't a question rather than just a comment in regards to the presentation. It was really good. He really appreciated all the points that you made, Kevin, and to his comrades, that this is very important, the information that you're providing, and that they will continue to, focus on their stories, but also working on getting that accountability happening. And I think another thing that we need to worry about and think about is that, just really quickly, is that all these stories that we're sharing are the focal point as to what the issue is gonna be upholding, correct? So, and with the conversations with the legislators, is a continuous conversation, right? We are gonna be continuing having these meetings with them. Hopefully we're able to create a relationship with these legislators so that we're able to, make sure that we hold them accountable for the things that are affecting us in our districts, in our lives. The things that we are fighting for are, pertain to our lives and our safety. So I'm gonna stop the questions here. Thank you all so much. It was very, very good. Good information, good conversation that we had here today. If you have any more questions, please put them in the chat. I will try to get to them, but we're getting there on time. We are going to be now doing our post evaluation. I know that there was a lot of information that we didn't get to practice together, but I want you all to know that this is going to be continuous. Our coalition is here for you all when if you need to develop these stories. The campaigns that are coming up this upcoming year of the 2022 legislative session are key to our safety and our health when it comes to expansion of Medicaid, or expansion to Medicaid to other lower incomes, or expansion to Medicaid for our undocumented community. So we are here to be for each other and here for everyone. So again, this post evaluation will be posted in the chat. We'll be raffling a $20 Visa gift card for those folks that do the pre and post evaluation. So please, we want to make sure that we get your feedback. And so with that being said, we hope that you enjoyed the workshop and I appreciate you all attending. We want to hear from you again, and the post-evaluation will be in the chat. As a reminder, we have one more workshop in this series, and this is the mock public hearing training that is going to happen in November 4th, and we'd love you to attend this and join us. And if you're interested in sharing your story that you created with us through this workshop, please email that to our coordinator, Dawn. Dawn will be putting her email in the chat, and we will also have the link in the chat for you to register to the workshop. We need everyone to register that so you are able to get that Zoom link. The link
Excuse
also.
me, Katya?
Yeah.
Can we just pause for just a moment to give people a chance to do the survey?
Yeah, I was gonna do that after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so the post evaluation is in the chat. Also the registration link is in the chat. So we're gonna give you all a minute or two to please do that, and then we'll close it all up and say goodnight. So please, one more minute for the post evaluation.
All right, that was a minute.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you, Donna. I started talking without muting myself. But yeah, just I don't want to like sound repetitive, but one more time, we do have a workshop in 2 weeks from now, November 4th. It's a Thursday at 6 p.m. We're gonna have 5 Connecticut representatives doing this mock public hearing with us. So please join us then. The link to register is on the chat as well. And if you need any information, please contact us for that. But yeah, this is the end of the workshop, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you all.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Have a good night, everyone. Hopefully you are able to eat something yummy for this dinner.
Thank you for your time. Gracias por su tiempo.
Pero en la agenda ponemos solamente informe del prior. Y entonces tú
So ya se acabó todo, lo encontré un poco.
I can. Mm. Mm. Okay. Mm-hmm.